The stone tools coming out of one Oregon dig may be older than the first Americans we have accepted for a century. In a sagebrush flat near the tiny town of Riley, someone pulled a coffee cream scraper from the dirt, and it was sitting under a layer of volcanic ash that fell more than 15,000 years ago. That ash is the problem. If the tool was buried before the ash landed, then someone was working stone in this desert before the ash fell, and that lands right in the middle of the oldest, most contested question in American archaeology. Who got here first? The dig is called Rimrock Draw. What keeps coming out of it makes the site older, not younger. Rimrock Draw is a rock shelter in Harney County, in the high desert of southeastern Oregon, on land managed by the Bureau of Land Management. It is not a dramatic cave. It is a shallow overhang, about 3 meters deep and 20 meters long, above an open sagebrush basin, the kind of spot you would walk past without a second look. A stream once ran right beside it, which is exactly why people would have camped there. Archaeologists started with test pits in 2011, then ran annual field schools led by Patrick O'Grady of the University of Oregon's Museum of Natural and Cultural History under a partnership with the BLM. The reason a plain overhang matters comes down to a layer of ash. Rimrock Draw sits under fallout from an ancient eruption of Mount St. Helens. Volcanic ash is not generic gray dust. Each eruption leaves a chemical fingerprint in its ash, a specific mix of glass and minerals that scientists can match to a known event and a known age. The layer at Rimrock Draw has been tied to a Mount St. Helens eruption dated to more than 15,000 years ago, which is what makes it usable as a clock in the first place. Ash layers are a gift to archaeologists for another reason too. They fall fast, they blanket everything, and they seal whatever lies beneath. Anything found under an undisturbed ash layer was buried before the ash arrived. So whatever sits below it is older than the day it fell. In 2012, O'Grady's team found camel tooth fragments under that ash line, along with the first orange agate scraper. Then came the detail that made people pay attention. Analysis found blood residue on the scraper, consistent with bison, most likely Bison antiquus, an extinct, larger ancestor of the modern American bison that lived during the Ice Age. That points to people butchering big game here, deep in the Pleistocene. A stone tool carrying the blood of an extinct animal, sitting beneath 15,000-year-old ash, is exactly the kind of find that makes an archaeologist slow down and check everything twice. A second agate scraper turned up in 2015, buried even deeper in the ash than the first. Both tools were the same coffee cream and orange agate, and both sat below the ash. The find was not a one-off either. In 2017, the team pulled up more orange stone flakes along with bison bone, teeth fragments, and obsidian flakes, all from levels pointing to occupation before the Clovis era. The natural layering of the sediment suggests the scrapers are older than both the ash and the teeth above them. On their own, though, the tools could not give a hard number. A stone scraper does not carry a date you can read off it. For that, the team needed something they could put in a lab. The teeth gave them that. Tooth enamel can be radiocarbon dated, and the fragments of camel and bison enamel were exactly the datable material the site needed. The dating work went to specialists with serious track records. Thomas Stafford Jr. of Stafford Research handled it, with radiocarbon analysis by John Southan at the University of California, Irvine. These are not fringe names, and that matters, because a claim this big lives or dies on the quality of the lab work behind it. The team ran the enamel first in 2018, then again in 2023, to check the result. Both rounds landed in the same place. The date came back at 18,250 years before present, or about 14,900 radiocarbon years. That consistency is the part O'Grady stresses. As he has put it, it is not so much that the dates are old, it is that the results keep coming back the same. And because the datable teeth sat in a layer above the tools, the scrapers themselves are likely older still. If it holds, Rimrock Draw is one of the oldest possible human occupation sites in North America. Not the proven oldest, one of the oldest. The distinction is the whole point, and the team has kept to it. To see why the caution is warranted, you have to understand the timeline this pushes against. For most of the 20th century, the standard story held that the first Americans were the Clovis culture, named for distinctive spear points, first found near Clovis, New Mexico. The Clovis-first model put human arrival at roughly 13,000 years ago, tied to hunters crossing from Asia as the Ice Age glaciers pulled back. For decades, that was the line almost no one crossed. A site claiming to be older had to survive a wall of skepticism first. Rimrock Draw's date sits thousands of years before that line, and it is not alone. In western North America, Cooper's Ferry in Idaho has produced well-dated tools reaching back about 16,000 years, and it has stood as the oldest firmly documented site in the region. Farther east, Meadowcroft Rock Shelter in Pennsylvania has long carried dates pushing past the Clovis boundary, with evidence stretching toward 19,000 calendar years. And fossilized human footprints at White Sands in New Mexico have been dated to roughly 21,000 to 23,000 years old, older than Rimrock Draw, and among the strongest challenges yet to the Clovis-first line. Rimrock Draw is one more data point in a slow, contested shift, not a lone bolt from the blue. Each new site chips at the old wall a little more. None of this rewrites human origins, and it is worth saying plainly. Our species evolved in Africa and had spread across much of the world long before anyone reached Oregon. What Rimrock Draw touches is a narrower and genuinely open question. When did people first arrive in the Americas, and by what route? That question is unsettled, and honest researchers treat it that way. It also carries weight beyond the lab. David Lewis, an anthropology professor at Oregon State University, noted that the early date lines up with the oral histories of tribal nations in the region. Some of those histories describe the Missoula floods, the Ice Age deluges that reshaped the Northwest between roughly 18,000 and 15,000 years ago, and others recall encounters with giant animals on the land. If the Rimrock Draw dates hold, people were here in time to witness both. There is one more honest caveat, and it is the most important. As of now, the Rimrock Draw dates remain unpublished in a peer-reviewed journal. The BLM and the university announced them, and the coverage was wide, but the field will not fully accept a claim like this until it clears formal peer review. Skeptics raise fair questions. Could datable material have shifted down through the sediment over thousands of years? Is the ash truly undisturbed everywhere the tools were found? O'Grady's team has kept digging and testing more teeth and burned plant remains from old cooking fires, because more evidence is what turns a striking claim into a settled one. So Rimrock Draw has not overturned the story of the first Americans. It has added a strong, consistently dated candidate to a question the textbooks are still arguing over. And it keeps getting older the deeper the team digs. Whether 18,250 years holds is not settled yet. That is exactly why they are still out there, digging.